Okay, here is how we make a template, what we need you to do to make a template for us to produce your brass doorstep. The tools you will need are one of 3 profile tools. I prefer to use a lead strip. You could also use a piece of soft, pliable wire, or you could, if you have access to one, use a profile gauge. Now feel free to fast forward this video because I don't have any editing techniques and time is money. Basically what we have here is a model of a typical villa doorstep. Normally you wouldn't be able to access this face here, and you would have sides of your door or whatever construction either side. So I'm going to demonstrate just on this small area here, and this is how your brass will ultimately look across the width of your door. If you're using a lead strip, all you need to do is, approaching it from the front, just hold the strip under there quite firmly and just roll it up, and it will naturally take the shape of the doorstep. And then push it down nice and flat, give it a bit of a pinch at the bottom, make sure it's pressed in firmly. Check underneath that it hasn't sprung away at all, usually it's pretty close. So once you've got the nosing, the second item of equipment you need is any old piece of cardboard. I tend to go for the manila folder. You could also use a bit of old cereal box. Start this over here. You're going to make a template in 2 pieces. So I grab the old pen and just trace very carefully on the inside of that lead strip. This would be the same if you were using a piece of wire, or the profile gauge will do the same thing. So trace in there nice and carefully and accurate. Hold the lid down a wee bit and you get that. What you then need to do, or what I tend to do, is I'll just grab a rule just for myself, as I extend that top line, which is the fall of the tread, just with a rule. And then we're just going to create basically a periphery, if you like, of the template, so that it actually has some shape and substance. Will probably come in just around there. So again, do fast forward this. A lot of this will become intuitive. I tend to make this quite a long way back. Almost want to make it that depth, well up the rise. What you're going to do is then join the back template to the front template. So we cut this out, cutting pretty close to the line. It doesn't have to be to the micron, but just pretty accurate. Just do your best around. I tend to just get rid of all of this excess now. And then just take more care around the, it doesn't matter how much you leave around here, but it just gives me some strength when you send it through the post. But this, you have to be a little bit fussier around here and just take little nibbles at it with this pair of scissors. You could possibly use a scalpel or a sharp craft knife. I'm just doing little tiny wee cuts, I suppose. Just trying to get around that corner pretty accurate. So I'm just easing my way around. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit jaggedy or slightly in or outside the line. You're going to be pretty close. So you'll end up with something like that. That bull nose is really important to get accurate. So don't come back to your doorstep and just offer it up. And there you'll see that's pretty good. If I'm being fussy, it might need a little bit of adjustment just in the bottom here. So you can just tweak yourself a bit more accuracy by eye. So just something along those lines. in she goes. It feels as though there's a little bit too much up in here. So I just work a bit more out. Again, fast forward if time is of the essence. Push back on, pretty close. Generally it's one of those things that the more time and effort you put into it, the better the result you're going to get. So now you've got the bottom template, you set that aside, make yourself the rear edge of the template. If you want to reuse a lead strip, you can take a hammer and smooth it out. Like that. Alternatively, yeah, you can revert to a simple piece of wire. The wire, just so you know, if you're using wire instead of lead, hold it again under your nosing, pull it up fairly firmly. It's a lot stiffer because it's steel, and push it down. What that will do is give you a fairly accurate nosing, but the top and bottom will spring open. So you have to preserve that radius, but then kind of squeeze the whole thing in, and then just perhaps straighten out. There's a bit of an arc in there, but you can do something like that. And again, it's just a matter of having some patience and care with what you're doing, and you'll get a usable shape to draw inside of. That's all you're really looking to do, and just as we did with that. And just for illustration, if you've got a profile gauge, same sort of an idea, just push it on, and again you've got the nice descriptive line. But if you're using lead, come to the inside now, push down and down again. Sometimes what I do is just make a mark. If there's any distinct peak in the doorstep, then I often just draw that on the lead and push that in reasonably tight at the back. You can give it a little tap. Lead's very soft, so it'll quite quickly squeeze up. So there you have the template of the rear part of the set. And again, just repeat the same process of making a rear template. Skip forward if you are short of time, because this is pretty obvious, I think. Again, I tend to extend this line just with a straight edge. And you'll want to choose a point for the depth, how close you want it to land on a piece of carpet on the inside of the house, or the wooden floor. You may or may not want a gap there. So again, just create yourself a periphery. Doesn't particularly matter what shape that is. It just gives you some area and strength to cut around. Cut it away. Cut this away. Cut there. This line's somewhat more important. Again, I've made it quite long so that afterwards we can overlap them by some distance and then take them together. That way you can get it pretty accurate. And just coming up to that peak point, and then the angle changes, is a pretty common profile on doorsteps for the villa. The process shouldn't really, even for someone who hasn't done it before, shouldn't take too long. As long as you've got a good profile tool, I don't know, take a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes to produce this art. Just trying to pick away an annoying bit there, but again, normally, because this is a cutaway, I can approach it from the end, but normally you would approach it from the front. That's pretty close. There's a bit of rise at the front, but that doesn't matter now. That this is where it gets a bit more interesting. Take the back section and the front section, push this one on place, put that one in place, and you're going to see how they overlap. That gives you a chance to sort of make it more accurate, basically. You're kind of combining the best of the back with the best of the front, if that makes any sense. So I just sort of sit it there, grab a bit of tape, masking tape is good, and set it on where you're happy. It's nice and tight. Keep that down, keep that in place on its best sort of line of best fit, and just get it sitting right, and you'll find a way of holding it that enables you to get it sitting right as well as tape it. So something like that, not necessarily final, but you get the idea. So get one piece of tape on and then reinforce it. Just so it doesn't shift. And then, this may not be absolutely perfect because I'm trying to get it through quickly for the video, but it's pretty close. In reality, I wouldn't be happy with this. It needs a bit of adjusting. You can sometimes lift the tape and reposition, which I could quickly do now. Just ease that off, and you can just change the degree of angle of the way in which they meet. So that would be a bit better, I think. And then trying to maintain that correct seat and join and off. And that's a wee bit better. So that's basically the idea of a template. You just check it there. You must, very important that you check this all the way along the step. Check it at the far end, check it right in the middle, because sometimes there's wear in the step from front to back. You want the template to be the size of the deepest part of the step from here to here, which is normally the outsides where it's not been worn. Sometimes right in the middle over the ears there can be a great divot or scoop in the middle. That will affect the distance, but you want to make it conform to